Ladies and gentlemen, DB&A Television is proud to bring you a Roar Media production, the nation's #1 digital coaches show. If you do not know him, you better Google him. He was a high school Hall of Famer, school record holder, 10-time letter winner. He was just a boy with a ball and a young man with visions of greatness from the land of Hoosiers. When his playing days were over, he wanted to give back to the game that provided him purpose. He had found his passion on the hardwood. 14 years college coaching, multiple regional and conference championships, multiple national rank programs, coached the National Player of the Year. Winning followed him to 15 seasons professional coaching, multiple championships, multiple Coach of the Year honors, near 780 win percentage. He placed over 100 players to their respected national teams that represented their countries at the World Championships and Olympic Games. He has coached current and former NBA stars. His purpose is now to serve, empower, inspire. Here he is, host of the Coach Scott Field Show. Make some noise, show some love. Host Scott Field.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. No matter where you're watching us from around the globe, I say thank you for allowing us into your homes and, most importantly, into your hearts. If you're watching us on the DB&A Television Network, a sincere thank you, and continue to support not only this show, but the other outstanding shows and talent and the network sponsors. If you're listening to us in podcast form today, Nesie and I say turn that knob up. We're going to put that flavor in your ear, because what we do on the Coach Scott Field Show is serve, empower, and provide tools for your toolbox. Hey, don't forget, if you're watching us, don't forget to like and follow us on the Facebook page, The Coach Scott Field Show. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is The Coach Scott Field Show. And we're also on the Anchor Network for podcasts. So anchor.fm/Coach Scott Field Show. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time once again for another edition of The Coach Scott Field Show. So let's lace them up. I am super excited. You guys can see this lovely lady sitting right next here to me. This is going to be fun. The reason this is so special to me, this is my wife's bestie, and we got to spend time together little more than a month ago down in Puerto Vallarta, and trust me, I can see why building a perfect 10 has worked so well for her, the author. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Nesie Campbell, and this is her book, Building a Perfect 10, a step-by-step guide to becoming your best self. Nesie Campbell, how are you today, girl?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on, Scott. I really, really appreciate it. I'm so excited about this and the opportunity to talk to you and share a little bit more about my book with you. I'm so excited.
You know what? It's so fun because, we get to talk to so many different people in different industries, and we're not really switching gears because, to me, this show is all about providing tools for your toolkit. So, as you guys are listening and watching today, man, make notes, because this gal right here, I'm telling you, beautiful inside and out, and she's going to tell you how to have that blueprint and have a step-by-step guide on building that perfect 10. So, Nesie, without further ado, let's get right into it. Tell us a little bit about this wonderful book.
Okay, so I wrote this book to help people recognize and appreciate all the positive attributes they possess. I want it to help them build self-confidence, believe that beauty is more than skin deep, recognize all of their strengths, and set goals to attain some of the places that they feel weak in. It is going to allow people to become a perfect 10 according to the only opinion that matters, their own.
See, I like that, because it makes no difference, Nesie, how many people can tell you that you're wonderful, that you're beautiful, that you're great. But if you don't believe it yourself, that's just white noise coming into that eardrum, correct?
Exactly, 100%.
Oh, that's neat.
It's hard to really recognize and believe that sometimes, because we all get so hung up on what we look like, and we don't take the time to get in there and dig a little bit deeper and see those other attributes that we all possess. So this book is going to help everybody be able to do that better.
See, I think that's well said. What do you hope the readers gain once they buy and they read this book. Because let's be honest, so many people can sit there and pick up self-help books and they can read it, but if they don't apply what they've learned, there will be no progress. So kind of explain what you hope the readers get.
Well, I'm really excited about it because I do have that little step-by-step guide. So once they start listing and they really have to think about all of those little attributes and put them down on paper, and then there's even something in there that they can tear out, put in their bathroom, on their mirror, look at it daily, remember all the things they want to do, focus on those things, and it will just be a constant reminder to them, look, you're trying to build yourself into a perfect 10. You know what you need to do. You've written down all of the tools, and you've written down all the attributes, and you've written down all the skills that you have and all the skills that you want to build on. And so all you have to do now is just put it somewhere where you're going to remember. Put that little tear out somewhere where you're going to see it every day and remember to look at it and focus on.
See, I think it's great that if they have that visual reminder, say they just put it on their mirror in the bathroom, they can always look at that and be like, oh, am I doing these steps? Am I applying this? Am I making myself the best version of myself by having that reminder right there while you're brushing your teeth or brushing your hair or, whatever you ladies do? Because for me, it takes me 20 seconds to do my hair in the morning.
Oh, I love it.
What motivated you to write the book?
So this is kind of embarrassing, but I was single for quite a while, and I was just thinking, I'm ready to meet someone. I feel pretty good about where I am in life. I feel like I have a lot to offer in a relationship. I'm going to get on a dating site and see what happens. So what happened when I got on the dating site is, you upload your picture, you upload a little bit about yourself, what you're looking for, all that kind of stuff. And some people have a lot of luck with the dating site. I didn't really have that. I actually realized through the dating site that I didn't have as much self-confidence as maybe I needed. So the first thing that happened is 8 people that I didn't know, I didn't reach out to them, nothing. 8 different people text me, you're too tall. I thought, too tall? I can't change my height. What? Then I had somebody say, only a high school degree, no thanks. Then I had one guy that I went out with, and he actually lied about his age. And when I got there, he was about 25 years older. And after the date, he said, we're not intellectually compatible. I'm like, wow. Then the next guy, I looked at his pictures. I thought, he's okay. I didn't think he was super attractive to me, but I thought he was okay. But as I read through all of his other stuff, I thought, wow, this guy seems like a good guy. We have a lot in common. So we went out and we had the best date. I mean, we talked about our childhood, so many similarities. We talked about how we raised our kids, the things that they were into, so many similarities. We talked about the things we want for the future, so many. I totally thought we hit it off. And then I got home and he sent me a text message that said, Nesie, you are such a great girl. It was so nice to meet you. I really enjoyed our conversation. However, you're a few too many extra pounds for me. And I actually cried. I cried. And then I thought, wow, I'm not ready for this. I do not have enough self-confidence to, counteract whatever these guys are saying. So I deleted the site. I cried. I did. And then I wrote down 10 things to contradict all of the negative things that I had been hearing on the site from these guys. And after that, I thought, if I was in the right place, somebody said you're too tall, I thought, well, maybe they're a little shorter. If somebody said you're not intellectually compatible, I'm like, well, you know what? That makes sense. You want somebody you can conversate with easier. And if somebody says, you're too heavy for me, even though I'm a healthy BMI for my height, maybe they like thin. That's fine. I wouldn't have been so offended and it wouldn't have hurt my feelings. So I decided it was time to work on myself. The next morning, I went to work and I was talking to a client. And she was telling me when she's on the dating site, she only reaches out to people that she scores the same way she scores herself. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? She's like, well, I score myself a 5.6, so I only reach out to people that are a 5.6. I'm like, why would you only score yourself a 5.6? She's like, well, I'm a little heavy. And that's when I got so upset. Too many people focus only on what they look like. This girl has a great job, a great child. She's a great mother. She's so fun. She's super bubbly. she's just an all-around good person, but she doesn't recognize all of her attributes, and she is just so down on herself. So I thought, I want to come up with a scoring system that is going to give people the opportunity to grade whether they are a 10 or not, based on all of their attributes, not just what they look like. So that's what I did.
See, and Nesie, I think about that too. And, in psychology and counseling, there's like a transference. And a lot of people who have low self-esteem, they will throw darts and try to bring someone else's, self-esteem down by saying mean and hurtful things. So I'm sure that's what a lot of these men were doing, even though it's hard to absorb that or think about that when you're reading that, because you're going to be so shocked and so stunned. But I love how you flipped it to be like, you know what, I'm going to turn this negative into a positive, and yet I'm going to take a situation that was hurtful to me to try to help and empower and provide tools for others. So for me, when I think about you and how I know you, I think it's wonderful that you had the courage and the bravery to be like, you know what, I may be vulnerable, but you know what, I have positive things that I can bring to a relationship, because you know what, I am a good person. And I love that you did that. But yet not only did you help yourself, you're helping so many others by putting all these tools, down for the readers.
I feel like that too. I just felt like after talking to her, I thought, I know that there are many other people out there that are feeling this kind of rejection right now. They're feeling rejected because if they don't feel like they look perfect. And I just wanted everybody to have an opportunity to really know themselves and know all those other qualities and recognize them, so that they could realize they have a lot to bring to the table, and don't let somebody take that away from you.
That's exactly right. You talked about the strategies and the blueprint. Tell us about the building blocks and the formula.
Okay, so basically I decided to do building blocks because it kind of goes in with the whole building a perfect 10, right? So if you think about your building blocks, when you go through this book, every person's going to have to come up with 10 building blocks. I actually am vulnerable in this book because I list my own 10 building blocks, my own personal 10 building blocks. I list those. So every person that reads it will have to come up with their own 10 building blocks in building a perfect 10. And basically, those building blocks are kind of like the core of who you are. So for you, Scott, coaching is one of your 10 building blocks. You're going to need to put coaching, right? That's one of the core values of who you are. You are a coach. That makes up a lot of who you are. So anyway, in these building blocks, if you're to put down, for instance, your upbringing is one of your building blocks. Your upbringing is kind of the core of what makes you who you are, right? So in your upbringing, you get certain attributes that you gain. The attributes would be all of the little granules of cement and sand. So the granules of cement and sand that go into these building blocks are your attributes. In your upbringing, these attributes might be your manners, self-discipline, method of handling conflict. All these things that you learned from your upbringing are going to be what goes into your building blocks. On top of that, once you go through all of your building blocks, you're going to have to list your main 10 building blocks. Then you're going to put 10 attributes underneath each building block. You're going to grade each of those attributes. At the end of that, you'll be able to see which building block you excel in and which building block you are weaker in, right? So as you figure that out, you're going to have to figure out which ones you scored lower in. And as you figure out which ones you scored lower in, you need to add the next ingredient, the third ingredient. In order to make cement and sand turn into concrete, you have to add water. So you're going to need to make a concrete plan of how to raise your score in those building blocks that you scored lower. In other words, if you scored lower in health and fitness, then you need to make a plan to set up a diet for yourself, set up an exercise program for yourself. Whatever you need to do, you have to write down your plan. You have to write it down so that you'll remember it, and you'll have it recorded in your book of what you're going to do to raise those scores in those areas. The twist to the building blocks is my grading system that I came up with. This is kind of fun because you don't have to get a perfect 10 in every area in order to score an overall perfect 10. So if you take someone like your wife, Kim, we all know Kim. Kim has rock hard abs and she's over 50. She looks like she's a walking, what do they call that when they touch it up for a model? She looks like she's been touched up, photoshopped.
Yeah.
Yeah. She looks like she's been photoshopped every day. But you know what? That doesn't come easy. She runs, she exercises, she watches what she eats. She's very diligent with all of those things. So in her health and fitness building block, and she lists her attributes, she can go over a 10, a score of a 10. And someone who excels in education, you know, like if they go above and beyond a bachelor's degree, maybe they have a master's degree, they've excelled in that area, so they can score themselves higher in that area. Or someone who is financially secure, maybe they're so secure financially that they donate and help others in need, they can score themselves higher in that area. So therefore, once you add all of your totals together, you don't have to have that perfect 10 in every single building block in order to score an overall perfect 10. So it just makes people realize they can build a perfect 10 according to all the attributes, not just one thing. That's why on the cover of my book, the girl is a little heavy set, but look at all the other things she has going for her. She travels, she has a great job, she has a home, she golfs and gets out and has fun. It's just trying to show you through the cover even that she has all these other things going on, and excelling in these other areas can definitely help contradict, scoring low in another area.
Wow. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to say this. Nesie is a hairstylist in the Pacific Northwest, but I'm hearing her be a carpenter because she's already given you a foundation on how to be the perfect you. So Nesie, I love this. And I think it's great for people and readers and listeners to know that if they put and they apply that plan that you have, those strategies and the formulas, they too can make steps to feeling better about themselves and having that, they'll just feel more complete. They'll have that mental wellness about themselves once they start feeling better and making strides in the right direction.
Absolutely. And when I first learned about this whole write 10 things to counteract one negative thing, it was actually when I was younger and I was seeing a counselor, and I just was kind of pretty negative and really hard on myself. And I would actually be the person saying negative things to or about myself. And she said, whenever you or someone else says something negative to or about you, you need to write down 10 positives. And I was in a place then that I'm like, I don't even have 10 positives. I mean, isn't that crazy?
Wow.
But the reader have to think about 10 positives that they list. And then as they start listing them, they'll be like, oh yeah, I do have that quality. Oh my gosh, I do have this great attribute. And it'll slowly start building up their self-confidence into knowing that these little things that they maybe take for granted every day are attributes that someone else might really be looking for. Other people might see attributes that you or I have and think, wow, I wish I had that attribute. You can put that in your list too, something that you strive for. And like I said, I had things that I strive for. I thought I want to be one of these people that, helps others more often. And so I signed up to go do haircuts for the homeless. I wanted to have that. And so it even helped me kind of build in certain areas for myself.
See, I like that, because what I hear, it's basically just a shift in the mindset to start giving yourself positive affirmations instead of tearing yourself down and letting one negative thing or one thing that you're very critical of yourself on to turn into 2 or 3 critical things, because that could be kind of contagious and it'll spread. So change the mind shift. Have that mindset of being positive, thinking positive, putting positive in, and positive results will come. And I love how you kind of help guide them through that shift in mindset.
Yeah, I really feel like, and while I was going through it, it did the same for me.
Right. Yes, I love that. I mean, here we are. We're almost 20 minutes into this conversation, and we've already provided so many tools for your toolbox. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Nesie Campbell, the author of Building a Perfect 10, here on the Coach Scott Field Show with you today. And we're going to continue these questions because we want you, the viewers and the listeners of this show, to put these tools in your toolbox. So, Nesie, as you were writing this book, you know, how did writing the book actually help you?
It helped me in so many ways you would not even believe. First of all, it did help me improve my own self-esteem. And secondly, it helped me see all these positive attributes, like I said, that I didn't even really necessarily think were any big deal. That's just kind of who I am, you know. But they're attributes that people really admire sometimes and would maybe strive for themselves. The other thing is, as I was going through writing this book, I went through my childhood. I share stories from my childhood. I went through a lot of different situations in my life and I relived them. And some of them were not easy to relive. And as I was going through some of these building blocks and sections and how I came up with some of the attributes that I gained from them, it was actually kind of hard at times because I realized I was holding on to a lot of, I guess I wasn't forgiving enough to certain people in my life. And then as I was learning the attributes that I gained from them and their impact in my life, it helped me to learn how to forgive them. And it helped me learn how to go, wow, I wouldn't have had this great attribute if it wasn't for going through this situation. And in actuality, I realized that one of my strongest attributes that I have is actually being able to bounce back. I'm just kind of like a jack in the box. I'm resilient. No matter what life throws at me, I am resilient and I just bounce back. And I bounce back, I feel like stronger and more positive every single time. And you wouldn't have thought that of me in the past, you know?
Wow.
So it helped me a lot. And I gained a lot from writing this book.
Yeah, see, I think it's wonderful because it had to be therapeutic to be able to write those down and then kind of process the trauma or, negative situations that you had gone through, because it helps you identify maybe some of the things that were holding you back from being the best version of you.
Absolutely. It was so therapeutic. I can't believe it. I mean, if I talk to family and friends, they say, wow, you have changed so much over the last couple of years. I see such a growth in you over the last couple of years. And honestly, I put a lot of that to writing this book because I felt like I was in 24-hour therapy for almost a year as I was writing this book.
Wow, good for you. And I really feel like if people buy this book, read the book, and apply the lessons and use, the building blocks and the formula, they too are going to feel better about themselves. Their self-esteem, their self-advocacy is going to go up, the way they present themselves, over phone calls or even in person. Because when I'm around you, Nesie, even in Puerto Vallarta, you have this inner glow about you because of your confidence. And I'm sure a lot of that may have come from having the therapy of writing this book, but yet you're doing it for you, but yet you're helping and empowering so many other probably women who are going through the same thing, because women are very, very hard on themselves. And I know men and professional athletes have the same problems with ego and things as well. And this is a tool that can help anybody, male, female, professional, anybody at all levels.
I think so too, because you can put what your building blocks, like I said, they can be professional, they can be personal, they can be whatever you want them to be, and help you, learn to grow and see what's important to you and what areas you want to grow in. So I think it can help anybody, male, female, all ages.
It's all about evolving. We all have to grow every day, personally, professionally, spiritually. And again, I think this book will definitely do that. You talked about, the color candy analogy. Share that with our viewers today.
Okay. So the colored candy analogy, believe it or not, I used to be somewhat pessimistic when I was young. I really was. And I sometimes would get jealous of things that other people have. I've grown from that now, and I actually am very happy for other people, and I just it just makes me super happy to see when other people are doing well and when they have good. But I wasn't always like that. And one thing that I came up with to kind of help me overcome that is the colored candy analogy. So remember when you're a kid and your parents are passing out candy to you and your sibling, and they have to count. They have to make sure everybody gets the same amount. Because if you don't get the same amount, somebody's going to get mad. That's not fair. That's not fair, right? And then you still have some that'll be like, oh, they got more of this color than I did. They got more. And it's like, well, you still all have the same amount of colored candy, right? So I decided to look at my life's blessings as colored candy. So if you're to look at it this way, red is love, green is money, yellow is family, orange is friendship, purple is health, is good health, then those are all of the life's blessings, right? So maybe when all the blessings were handed out, I didn't get as many red blessings, and I could be jealous of somebody that got more red colored candy, but then there could be someone else that has ailing health, and they're jealous of the purple candy I received. So this has really helped me to approach life with a place of gratitude and to recognize I have so many great blessings in my life, and I need to appreciate those and focus on those and live in gratitude rather than living in this jealousy of what other people have. And it just has really helped me to be able to separate out and do that.
Wow. When I hear that, I think about Forrest Gump. Life is like a box of chocolate. You just turned it into a bag of Skittles, girl. And I love that. So go get your Skittles on. I think that's great. So, when they read this book and they think about a bag of Skittles, Nesie's helping you with building a perfect 10. And I just, again, I love the analogies because it can be applicable to anybody's life or, where they're at now. And you can't grow or get better until you understand and know where you're at now to move forward.
100%. Exactly.
And I love that you have so much gratitude and you're happy for others when they have success, because so many people can have a bitterness and a chip on their shoulder or that jealousy because someone else has done well, because maybe on their path, they just had earlier blessings and had great things happen. Everybody is going to have success, but the fact that you can always take the high road, shift the mindset, and be happy for others, I think that also helps that with that mindset shift that you can have.
To stay positive. And I like what you just said about the blessings coming earlier for some people than others. I still 100% know that when the right time comes, I will have that person in my life that will be my forever person, and I will be happy, and I'll have a long, happy, loving relationship. It just hasn't happened quite yet, but I know it will one day. I just know.
I have no. Are you kidding me? Look at you right now, sitting next to me. You're beautiful. You're positive. You're outgoing. You feel good about yourself, and when you feel good about yourself, you will bring that into the relationship. So, guys, if you're out there watching this right now, just know that sometimes, hey, this gal is available and she's free. You may have to hit me up, and I'll put you in contact. But hey, let me be that dating service for you. Oh, goodness. I do love that color candy analogy. Talk about protecting, the inner child from within. Talk about that, protecting the inner child.
So this part is a little bit, I could get teared up. I'm trying not to, but okay. There was a point in my life when I was single for a long time, and I just was so tired of being alone. And when I was in that phase, my search for a relationship caused me to compromise my own values. And I was kind of naive. I thought, okay, when you're dating somebody and you take it to the next level, that means that you're in a committed relationship. But men don't always feel that way. And that left me feeling used. And it was really, really hard for me. And I realized I just did not respect myself enough to protect myself. And so I'm like these analogies, right? So I came up with something that really helped. I feel like I am so careful of other people's feelings, and I'm so careful of trying not to hurt other people, but I wasn't doing that for myself. So I kind of started looking at myself as having a little child of God within me. So a little girl that God sent me here on earth. I feel like this is maybe my biggest job here on earth, is to protect that little girl that God sent me here to protect on earth. And so once I started doing that, I realized I need to love this girl. I need to treat her well. I need to respect her. I need to teach her. I need to be proud when it's time for me to return her and say, here she is. We had a couple rough spots, but she's all intact and she's doing good. That's what I want to be able to do when it's that time to return her. And so once I started doing that and looking at myself that way, I was actually able to start really seeing myself through his loving eyes and really love myself for who I am. And I even started doing things like, if I'm out shopping and I see pretty flowers, I buy the flowers for myself. I've taken myself on trips. I've gone on trips alone, like I went and met you guys, and that was so much fun. And if I'm single during the holidays, I think about how much I would probably spend on a significant other, and I buy myself a gift. So I'm just really trying to learn to love this child of God within myself.
Man, I'm going to tell you what, that right there is powerful, because if people can do that, you're such a giving and such a servant and you're always doing for others, but yet it's not a selfish act to take care of yourself and look out for yourself, but you were probably giving and giving and giving so much that wasn't the priority for you. And it's okay for people to take care of themselves, correct? Am I getting that right?
Exactly, 100%. I always was more worried about how the other person was going to feel. And if I didn't do this for them, how would they feel? Instead of like, wait, that doesn't feel good to me. I don't want to do this. You know what I mean? And so I've really, turned that around so that I can start protecting myself.
And see, and I think that's a healthy thing to do, because if we can't take care of ourselves and feel good about ourselves, we can't rely on someone else to make us happy. We have choices we make every day to try to make ourselves healthy, whether it's diet, whether it's exercise, whether it's, picking up and reading a wonderful self-help book, just like this. I mean, there's things we can do to, again, just to take care of ourselves. And again, it's not a selfish act, and it's okay to put yourself, as a high priority.
Yeah, I agree. And I see other people do it. And that's another thing about building a perfect 10. I see other people do self-care, take care of themselves, love themselves, treat them right. And I thought, oh, I want to be like that. I want to be that person. So that's one of these other things that I learned through writing this book. And I feel like other people can learn through reading this book and doing the workbook portion.
Yeah, see, and I think the workbook is a powerful tool. How can building the perfect 10 help in relationships? Let's dive into that, because we put so much emphasis on relationships because, we as creatures, we're social people. And when COVID hit, it was so hard because we couldn't connect. But yet relationships are important to us, whether it's family relationships, personal relationships, relationships with God. Let's talk about how building a perfect 10 helps in any relationship.
Okay, so first of all, I think that once you know yourself better, you know what you're looking for. If you are single and you're looking for a relationship, once you know what you're looking for and what's important to you, it's going to be that much easier to go find it and recognize it when it's in front of you. Whereas if you just kind of are not really knowing what your plan is for your lifestyle ahead of you, once you have your lifestyle that you want planned out, then you can see it and go, this person's on the same page as me. That would be good. If you're already married and you go through and you list all these things together, you can compare notes and say, wow, this person has this strength and I didn't even realize, or, oh, they have this weakness and I didn't realize. Oh, this is important for this person. They want to spend all their time together. This person likes to have a little time away. You and Kim are such a great couple. And yet you love to go hunting, right? I'm sure you guys have a lot of the same attributes and a lot of goals for your future. But there are certain things that you don't necessarily always, go together on, like, you love hunting, she's not a fan. But when you go hunting, what does she do? We go to hair shows. She comes up here. We get to do the girly things that you're not so fond of. And all in all, when you write down your list and you compare it with your spouse and you can see all of those things, you'll probably realize, okay, this is more important to her, this is more important to me. And you can come together then and build the lifestyle that really works for both of you. Like I was talking to my daughter the other day, and she said that one thing too in relationships is when you know your spouse's strengths and they know their weaknesses, then you can step up and help each other out. And that's what it's about, being married and being there to support each other, and she said, it's just really knowing all of those things about each other could really be helpful in making your relationship stronger than you ever thought it could be.
Yeah, see, I feel like, it takes work, it takes effort, but yet when I'm not with Kim, I can't wait to be back with Kim because we share so many common interests, as you know. People will joke and say, oh, gosh, you guys are a power couple. No, she's her own individual person. I'm my own individual person. We meet in the middle and we share core values and beliefs, and yet we support each other in things that, if Kim has something that she wants to attain or do, I want to be supportive in that and try to be the best husband possible and, check off the boxes on my end first to be a great husband and friend for her. And I feel like, we have to have that foundation, those building blocks that you talked about to build and grow from. But yet, not everybody has the same common interest. Not everybody has the same core beliefs. And that just takes more work and harder communication from each other to have that solid relationship. And I know that you're looking for that.
Yeah, I am looking for that. And like I said, now that I know exactly what is important to me and what it's a must, right? We have to match on certain levels in order for a relationship to be successful. Being a hairdresser, I've watched many couples go through problems and even divorce. And when they don't come together on some of these topics that are super important, it becomes a real problem. So I just think that when you, as a couple in a relationship, when you know what those core things are and the most important to your spouse, if you love them enough, you're going to help work on those things. You're going to show an interest in those things. And even if you don't actually agree on every single thing, you're still going to respect each other's opinion. And it's just really helpful, I think, to know exactly what is important with you financially, what is important with you for our lifestyle for the future, what is important to you, as far as your religious views. Like, those things are important. And when you write it down on paper, you can't keep it a secret anymore. It's out there for both of you to see.
There you go. You've put it out to the universe. And what I hear you saying, it sounds like probably earlier in your development that you would probably settle for certain things that now you've got boxes and you're like, no, I'm no longer going to settle for this. I'm not going to let someone talk to me like that. I refuse to let someone treat me or my daughter this way. And so now you have a firm stance for what you're going to stand for and what you accept and not settle for anything else. Correct?
That's 100% correct. And honestly, at first, like I said, being alone was so hard for me, but then I kind of got over the hump. Now I'm like, I can go on this vacation. I can do whatever I want on my way there. I can do whatever I want on my way back. I can spend my money where I want. I can save my money when I want. I can, like I've kind of gotten used to being single. So it's really going to take somebody special to come in here and make me want to change things up, to be honest.
You know what? But I'm going to tell you what. Confidence is sexy. Independence is sexy. And men, just from this side, we love a challenge. And if you won't put up with crap that men will take or put out, I think that makes you even more attractive. And men, listen to what these tools are, because listen, Steve Harvey had, had his whole book and movie. This right here could be a movie. Ladies and gentlemen, again, this is Nesie Campbell, Building a Perfect 10, a step-by-step guide to becoming, your better self. So, Nesie, I know you're going to laugh at this, but to me, you are a Steve Harvey, and this could be a movie, and you can help people with tools. We can laugh about it, but yet it's funny because it's just so true. So I just love all the tools that you're providing everybody with. And it is a good book, and my wife has read it. I even had to go to the salon to pick this book up today just so I can have it to be on the show. But with the many chapters in the book, without giving away the entree, let's give them an appetizer. What was your favorite chapter of the book, or what was the biggest impact for the readers in which chapter in the book?
Okay, so it would be chapter 10, my favorite one, because I talk about feeding the light. And I think even, especially right now, with the climate we're in and all the things that have gone on, I don't know if you remember, but I was putting a couple of videos up in the beginning of the lockdown about feed the light. Feeding the light is just really, really working on staying positive. And no matter how positive a person is, no matter how optimistic they are, no matter how hard they try to feed the light, do all the things that keep them positive, it's still gonna sneak into there every once in a while. I don't know if you've ever heard the story of two wolves. I'll just give you kind of a little glimpse, but basically it's about a grandfather telling his grandson that we all have two wolves that live inside of us. One of is lighter and it's good, and the other is darker and it is evil. And those two wolves are constantly at battle. And the grandson says, well, which one wins? And he said, the one you feed. So we have to be very, very diligent about feeding the light. And if that darkness comes over us, this depression sinks in. It's been sinking in for so many people right now. And so when that depression sinks in, it could be because of a pandemic. It could be because of, someone you know and love gets addicted to drugs and alcohol. It could be a death of a loved one. It could be any traumatic situation that happens in your life. That dark is going to creep in on us. It always does. And so for us to recognize all of our attributes that we have in our overall character, you can look to those attributes when you're in that place. And if you just have one attribute come out, like your sense of hope, you can start seeing a little small flicker. And then that sense of hope will bring out your willpower. And then your willpower will bring out your optimism. And your optimism will bring out your inner strength. And pretty soon that little teeny flicker is going to become a beacon of light for you. So for me, it has the most impact because I just feel like people get into this depression, and I really want them to understand you can get out of that depression. And there's even another little workbook in that section alone, just to help people recognize what they need and which attributes they can fall back on when they're in that place to really cling to and be able to feed that light in the darkest hours.
Man, I'll tell you what, that's some powerful nuggets right there. Ladies and gentlemen, again, this is my wife's best friend, Nesie Campbell, and I know why she's her best friend because they're so similar. She talks about beauty and inner beauty, and here she is, a beautician, making others feel good about themselves. This book does the same thing, and she just talked about feeding the dark wolf, the light wolf. And, there's a Chinese proverb, give a man a fish and he can eat for a day. Teach a man to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. Building a perfect 10 is teaching you how to fish. And if you want to eat for a lifetime and continue to be a better person and evolve through a lifetime, you really need to go get a copy of this book. So Nesie, real quick, where can the viewers and the listeners of this podcast, where can they get Building a Perfect 10?
It is available on Amazon, and if you just Google Building a Perfect 10, it will be the first thing that pops up. You can click on that. It'll take you right to Amazon, and you'll be able to order it right there on Amazon.
I implore you to go get a copy of this book so that way you have the building blocks, you have the formulas, you have the worksheets. And these worksheets, if you use them and make them applicable to your life on a daily basis and refeed that light wolf that Nesie was just telling you about, there's no way you can't be a 10 for yourself and be a 10 for others. Nesie, we've got about 10 minutes, and I love your storytelling. Let's get into some of these stories because, again, I think it kind of lets people know more about the author, Nesie Campbell. So, share your stalker story with us.
Okay, so you probably remember earlier when we were talking about the book when I said that I learned through things that happened just how resilient I am, right? So when I still was living in Utah, I actually was going through a really, really difficult time. I was sick all the time. I didn't know why. I was having just horrible Charlie horse type pains in all of my joints. It hurt so bad. Everything I tried to move, it would hurt. Sometimes I'd get so exhausted, I would slide down a wall and fall asleep. I was just exhausted. I would stutter and slur, and I had all these things going on. I would go into the doctor, and they couldn't figure out what's going on. At the same time this was happening, I had been divorced. I had bought a home on my own, and I was working 2 jobs to make ends meet. I didn't have the financial help at all. And so I worked graveyard shift, and then I worked day shift. I worked graveyard shift at a grocery store, and I worked day shift. And I got very little sleep. And so I went to the doctor, and they figured out that I had an autoimmune disease. And the doctor said, you need to quit one of your jobs. I said, I can't afford to quit one of my jobs. There's no way I can afford to do that. And he said, you will not be here for your daughter if you do not quit one of your jobs. He's like, I'm going to write down the most important prescription you will ever get. And he wrote down 10 to 12 hours of sleep per night and naps as needed. And that was because of my lupus. I need extra sleep. And so I couldn't work 2 jobs anymore. It was devastating. I literally had to take out bankruptcy. I had to give back anything of material value I owned. Everything I owned of material value I lost. And it was really, really hard. And my daughter, I felt so bad that we had to move out of our home into an apartment. I wanted her to have a home, to go trick-or-treating, ride her bike, all that kind of stuff. In the same time all of this was going on, I had been dating this guy for about 3 weeks, and he was stalking me. He stalked me for 3 years. Oh. And one time, the worst part that it got to was he snuck into my house in the middle of the day, hid inside the bathroom behind the curtain, and who knows how many times we went in and used the restroom and went out while he was hiding back there for me and my daughter. I had a roommate downstairs at the time. And in the middle of the night, I woke up to him on top of me. So I had to fight him off, and I was cussing and I was kicking and I was fighting him off. The cops came, they took him away, and the next thing you know, I get a letter stating that he was trying to press charges against me for child abuse. And I'm like, what is he up to now? I've never been abusive to my daughter. And so we went to court, and he said that because I was acting that way in front of my daughter in Utah, if you're abusive to your spouse in front of your child, that's child abuse. I'm like, first of all, you're not my spouse. Second of all, she was sleeping. And third of all, are you kidding me? You broke into my house. Well, the prosecuting attorney said the same thing and said, she could have shot you dead. We will not be pressing charges against her. But it just kept getting worse. I had to quit my job and move to a different salon. Then I had to move to a different city. Then I had to move again. He kept finding me. And eventually I had to pack up everything. He got arrested for violating the protective order. He tried to pick my daughter up from school. All this stuff happened. So I packed up all my stuff while he was in jail and moved to the state of Washington. And luckily, my sister let me live with her for a while until I could get on my feet. It took about 4 months to get on my feet and, get moved out. And then about 6 months later, I could buy a home again. But it was really, really hard. And I mean, going through all that stuff just taught me just how resilient I actually am. and being able to have the gratitude to recognize that one of the greatest blessings that came from that move for me was I was introduced to a different church, and this church that I went to kind of taught me more about God's love, because I had a idea that God was a mean God, he was a judging God, he was a this God. And then when I got here and I got to that church, I learned about his true love for us. And so even through all of those things that happened to get me here, I actually still am grateful because it got me here, you know?
Wow. Yeah. And when I hear you tell that story, I hear strength, I hear courage, I definitely hear resilient. Oh my goodness. But yet here you bounce back, and yet you still remain positive. I admire that about you. I mean, to me, you're Wonder Woman with a cape, because to me, that's a night terror, not just a story. Oh my goodness, Nesie, that's powerful right there. Again, this is our author, Nesie Campbell, Building a Perfect 10. Tell us about the time you surprised your daughter with a car.
Okay, so the reason that this story is so important to me, or so impactful to me, is because I just told you guys I had to take out bankruptcy. I had to start from zero and work my way back up again. And so I always had told my daughter that when she turned 16, I would get her a car if she got good grades. So there were a couple of things that happened along the way. When she was like 10 years old, she didn't get a very good grade in math. The reason for that was because she knew all the answers. She was so smart, she knew all the answers, and the teacher wanted them all listed how she came to that. So we just had to kind of go back in and show her that. But she cried. She's like, I'm not going to get my car now. And I'm like, I had to explain to her, oh, Kylie, I'm saying, like, overall good grades through your whole life, we're going to get you this car, right? And then my daughter, she always excelled in everything. I mean, she went to college and high school. She got her associate's degree and her high school degree within a week of each other, and she was under 18. She was 17 years old. Wow. Still. She's very smart, very determined, and I'm so proud of her. But I wanted to make sure that I could make good on that promise. And, you know, with the financial stresses that I had over the years, there were times that I wasn't sure I'd be able to make good on that promise. So the day came that we were going to go look for a car, and we couldn't find anything in the budget that we wanted. So she saw this car, she was in love with it. It was a little Volkswagen Bug. She was in love with the car. And I'm like, Kylie, I'm sorry, it is out of my budget. So we went home. The next day, the dealership called me and told me that they could give it to me for cost plus $500 because they got it good. They got a really good deal on it themselves. And it was still a little more, but I could do it. So I surprised her, and it was so funny. I got a ride to work, and I picked up the car, and then I drove her car home, and I parked it at a grocery store close to our house. And then I walked home the rest of the way, and she's like, Mom, I was wondering where you were. Your car's in the garage. You were gone. And I'm like, I know, I couldn't get the garage door open this morning. The power was out, and so I had to get a ride to work. And I'm like, but you know, we can get it out now. Do you want to run with me to the store? And she's like, I'm kind of tired. And I go, please, I want you to come with me. So she came with me to the store. And then we walk past the car in the, parking lot. And I go, gosh, that looks like the car you wanted. And she's kind of like, yeah, like disappointed because she couldn't have it, And then I said, and so she's walking ahead of me a little bit, so she barely turned around. And then I said, I wonder if these fit. And I dangled the keys. And then she turned around and she's like, what? Are you serious? Mom, are you serious? And then I'm like, yes. And she came running. She almost plowed me over. She was so happy. She was so pleased that she was able to get that car. And we both cried, and it was just such a magical moment. And for me, it was just kind of like, wow, I made it through all of that stuff. And I was able to keep that promise to my daughter. So for me, it was so impactful, to be able to do that. And so I just love that story. I just love that memory with her and just how happy she was. It was just amazing to me.
Nesie, I'm crying with you. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. I mean, there's another attribute right there. You are a strong single mom, and you made that dream become a reality. And just the fact that you kept that promise and you worked super hard, you took care of yourself, but yet provided a memory that she will just, it'll last forever. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? That's just so powerful. I mean, here we are 52 minutes into this conversation. I love the stories. And again, Nesie Campbell, the author of Building a Perfect 10, fellas, are you kidding me? I'm sitting here hearing these stories and I'm like, how can she not be married? So Beyonce, fellas, you better put a ring on it. This gal is something special right here. Are you kidding me right now? I mean, in 2 minutes, can you kind of share the story of the road rage story?
Oh, well, this is just kind of funny. My dad literally had like the ultimate road rage. Honestly, the ultimate road rage. And he was kind of a tough guy, okay? So he might be embarrassed if I was telling this story. I'm sorry, Dad, I have to. But it was kind of like when we were driving to our cabin one time, and this car kept like, you know how there's double lanes and then there's not, and then there's double lanes and then there's not. Okay, so when there was no double lanes, the car would go really slow, like 20 miles below the speed limit. And then when there was double lanes, they would gun it and go above the speed limit. My dad couldn't pass. And it was like this game back and forth went on for I don't know how long, probably 40 minutes. And then finally, my dad's road rage kicked in. And he like gunned it to pass him anyway. And he kind of ran him off the road, honestly. And then after they were off the road, he pulled over. And another little secret about my dad is he used to do roadies. So he got out of the car and he went and he literally like gave them a little lecture with his fist about how bad of a driver they were. And then he came back in and he's like, oh yeah, I gave them that little lecture and I only used one hand.
Oh my goodness.
That, you know, that kind of road rage that he would get. But anyway, so I did add that story in my book, and it was kind of a funny story. And I wasn't sure how much time we would take with talking about the book, so I wanted to add a couple little nuggets in there at the end if we had time. So I'm glad we were able to.
Oh, this has just been fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, my special guest today, yes, she may be my wife's bestie, but I'm going to tell you what, she's just a genuine, wonderful, just a sweet spirit, and can't thank you enough for sharing your time with us today. Again, let's take a look at it. Building a Perfect 10. Go to Amazon, correct, to get a copy of this book. It's a step-by-step guide. There's worksheets in this book. Get out and support this gal in this book. And again, fellas, she's single. Are you kidding me right now? Nesie, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Your servant heart has just been wonderful. I feel like I'm just blessed to have had the opportunity to have the platform to allow you to share your stories, to share your experiences, share your vulnerabilities, but most importantly, to share the tools that are in Building a Perfect 10. Thank you much for your time. Can't wait to see you soon. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a guest on the Coach Scott Field Show.
Scott, thank you so much for letting me be on here. I really appreciate it so much. I really do. It means the world to me. And over one of my other attributes that I wanted to build up, which was public speaking. I was terrified, and I turned to the chapter in the book when I was going to go through my book to get some notes that's called Kick Fear in the Rear. And I'm like, oh, that's a sign. I'm supposed to do this show.
Oh, see, there you go. You kicked fear in the rear, baby. You're on the Coach Scott Field Show. And let me tell you something. You knocked it out of the park. And in my eyes and into the viewers' eyes, I know they're going to see a perfect 10 when they hear and see you talk, girl. God bless you.
Thank you. God bless.
Bring it in. Thank you for watching the Coach Scott Field Show, the nation's #1 digital coaches show. This DBNA television broadcast is a Roar Media production. Don't forget to subscribe to the coach's YouTube channel. Like and follow him on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Have yourself dressed and ready to go in the locker room for the next exciting show coming soon. Thank you for watching the Coach Scott Field Show, the nation's #1 digital coaches show. This DBNA television broadcast is a Roar Media production.